The ground shook as the human rescue ship crash-landed on the edge of the alien jungle. Smoke filled the sky, and alarms screamed inside the wreckage. 15-year-old Ryan Hart coughed hard, trying to stand. His hands trembled. But he held onto the small medkit he was told to carry. This wasn't part of the plan. He was just a trainee meant to observe, not survive a crash. Around him, trees glowed with soft blue light. Strange flowers hissed when he stepped near them. Ryan had never seen a planet like this. His team was gone, no signal, no sound, just silence and smoke. He moved slowly through the forest, heart pounding in his chest. He should have stayed by the crash site, but something called him faint. Weak. A sound not quite human. It was a voice, crying, whispering, desperate. After climbing over roots and rocks, he reached a hidden clearing. There she was, a girl, half buried in dirt and vines, metal chains glowing faintly around her wrists. Her skin was soft lavender, almost shining in the moonlight. Long silver hair tangled across her face. She was breathing, barely. Her eyes opened slowly as he stepped closer, and for a second, time stopped. Ryan stared, frozen. She wasn't just an alien, she was beautiful. Don't move, he whispered, kneeling beside her. Her lips trembled, and in a quiet voice she asked, "Human?" He nodded. Yes, I'm here to help." She flinched. "They'll come back." "Who?" he asked. She looked at him with eyes like glowing gold. "The ones who chained me, they're coming." Ryan pulled the medkit open with shaking hands. He had never trained for this, freeing alien prisoners, touching a royal-looking girl from another world, but something inside him refused to leave her behind. He worked quickly, cutting the glowing wires with his emergency blade. Each one burned slightly, but he didn't stop. Her body was weak, shaking, but she watched him closely. "You're just a child," she whispered. "I'm 15, Ryan answered, offended. She gave a weak smile. "Then you're still a child." Suddenly, loud humming filled the air. 3 alien drones broke through the trees, lights scanning the ground. Ryan grabbed a branch and stood in front of her. He didn't know what he was doing, but he wasn't going to run. The drones paused, locked on him. He threw the branch, hit one in the eye, and grabbed the girl's hand. "Can you move?" he asked. She nodded slowly. Together, they limped toward the thickest part of the jungle, hiding behind a stone wall covered in vines. The drones hovered nearby but didn't spot them. Ryan's heart beat like a drum. The girl leaned her head against his shoulder, weak and cold. "Why did you help me?" she asked. He blinked. "Because no one else did." Silence. Then she turned her face toward him and whispered something he would never forget. "Return when you're older, human," she said softly. "Return to me." He didn't know what she meant, but before he could ask, a larger ship broke through the clouds. Her people, the royal guards, had come for her. They landed fast and surrounded them. Ryan raised his hands, but they didn't hurt him. One of the guards recognized the mark glowing faintly on the girl's arm. It was a signal, a claim. She was no normal girl. She was royal, maybe even sacred. And now, somehow, marked by a human boy. As the guards lifted her, she reached out and touched Ryan's chest gently. "I will remember you," she said. He couldn't speak. The next moment, she was gone, lifted into the sky by her people. Ryan stood alone in the jungle, her scent still in the air. He looked at his hand. Where she had touched him, it felt warm, changed. He didn't know what kind of future had just started, but he knew one thing for sure. She had told him to return, so one day he would. Ryan Hart was 16 now, a year older, stronger, faster, but he still had the same dream, the same golden eyes, the same soft voice that whispered, "Return to me." He would wake up sweating, heart racing, hand gripping the bedsheet, like he was still in that alien jungle. No one believed him. Not his schoolmates, not the officers, not even the doctors who scanned his mind. They all said it was a dream, a hallucination after the crash. They had found him alone near the wreckage, no sign of an alien girl, no chains, no guards, no nothing. only a strange pendant in his hand glowing, warm, and unregistered in Earth's database. Ryan knew it was real. He remembered the warmth of her fingers, the fear in her voice, the strength in her despite the pain. Her name Velra was carved into his heart like fire. He couldn't forget her, even when everyone else told him to, so he made a choice. He stopped caring what others thought. He joined the Space Corps' young program as soon as he was allowed. He studied alien languages, planetary survival, ship mechanics, and every alien species in the known galaxy. But her people, the Neurillians, were a mystery. Their world was hidden, marked unreachable by the Galactic Treaty. Still, Ryan trained harder than anyone. While others played games and relaxed, he practiced combat in zero gravity. He trained with soldiers twice his age, outsmarted instructors, broke records in simulation drills. They called him obsessed. They were right. In quiet nights, Ryan would take out the pendant. It still glowed gently, like it was alive sometimes. He swore it pulsed like a heartbeat. He didn't know what it truly was, but he believed it was connected to her. A sign, a promise, a link. One evening, during training break, Ryan sat alone on the viewing deck of the Orbital Academy. Earth's curve shimmered below, beautiful but distant. An older cadet sat beside him. A smuggler-turned-pilot named Vex. Still chasing ghosts, kid? Vex asked with a smirk. Ryan didn't smile. Not ghosts, he said quietly. Someone real. Vex studied him for a moment, then leaned back. You ever heard of the Forbidden's Belt? He asked. Ryan turned sharply. What is it? Vex lowered his voice. It's where no one's allowed to go. Full of ancient ruins, cursed planets, and one system where even top governments don't poke around. Ryan's heart raced. Which system? Vex shrugged. Don't remember the number, but they say it glows blue at night from orbit, and the air smells like spice. Ryan's breath caught. That was her world. She had told him, the wind smells like sweet fire. Ryan knew what he had to do. He spent the next 2 years gathering every bit of data he could, secret reports, abandoned files, even black market info. Most of it was blocked or corrupted, but a few clues pointed to a system marked XN13B. That was his target. That was her world. At 18, he applied for the Deep Survey mission, a long-range operation. Exploring uncharted regions, he was accepted, just barely. Most crew members were older, experienced, and didn't take him seriously, but Ryan didn't care. All he needed was a way to get close to the Forbidden's Belt. Once there, he would sneak away, even if it cost him his job or his life. His heart beat faster as the ship entered warp. He stood by the observation glass, watching stars stretch like rivers. He whispered her name, Velra. It sounded like music in the dark. Somewhere out there, she was alive, maybe waiting, maybe forgotten. But he hadn't forgotten. Not even for a day, 2 weeks into the journey, their ship passed near a strange interference zone. The captain ordered all systems on alert. Ryan looked at the glowing map. One point flickered red. Just outside the safe path, XN13B. His moment had come late that night. Ryan entered the storage bay, carrying a small launch pod access card he had borrowed from an engineer. The crew was asleep, and alarms were quiet. His heart pounded as the pod opened with a soft hiss. He stepped inside, sealed the hatch, and whispered, "Set coordinates. XN13B." The pod launched, shooting silently into space. Behind him, the main ship shrank into a dot. Ahead, a blue planet glowed gently in the dark. The wind from that world was a memory now warm, sharp and sweet like fire. Ryan didn't know what waited for him down there, but he was no longer a child. He had returned, just like she asked him to. The landing was rough. Ryan's small pod slammed into thick jungle and skidded across glowing moss and twisted roots. Smoke filled the air, but he was alive. His heart raced, not with fear, but with something stronger. He had made it. He had returned to her world, outside. Everything looked strange, yet familiar. The air was thick with heat, buzzing insects, and the soft humming of distant machines. Ryan stepped out carefully, his boots sinking into damp alien soil. Blue leaves brushed against his face, and golden pollen floated like tiny fireflies. Took a deep breath. The scent hit him instantly, sharp, sweet, and fiery, just like she had described. This was it. Velra's planet, the same world where she had been chained, but now it was worse. He moved quickly, hiding in shadows, keeping his body low. He had studied her people's patrol patterns from old satellite scans. Still, he didn't expect so many guards. They wore black armor with red symbols, and their weapons crackled with energy. This wasn't peace. This was lockdown. Signs written in alien script warned all outsiders. No humans, death to intruders. Ryan's heart sank. What had happened since he left? He climbed a rocky ledge to see better. In the distance, a giant city sparkled with silver towers and floating lights. But one tower stood higher than the rest, dark, tall, and glowing with purple energy. He had no proof, but his soul whispered. To him, she's there. Ryan traveled at night, hiding during the day. He ate ration bars, drank from plant roots, and kept the pendant she gave him close to his chest. It still glowed faintly. It gave him strength, but it didn't make him invisible. On the third night it happened. As he crossed a bridge carved into a stone cliff, 2 patrolling guards spotted him. He ran fast and desperate, but they chased him on hoverbikes. A stun blast hit his back, and pain exploded in his spine. He fell hard, rolled, and tried to stand, but everything went black. He woke up in chains, cold metal floor beneath him. Buzzing lights above, alien guards watched him through force fields, whispering things in their native tongue. One spat on the ground and muttered, "Human filth." Ryan didn't fight, not yet. He needed to know where he was, more importantly. If she was near. Days passed, or maybe hours, he couldn't tell. The prison camp was built underground, with no sunlight. He saw other prisoners, 2 aliens, rebels, even children. They all looked broken. Was this the future Velra had tried to change? One evening, a loud buzz filled the corridor. All guards straightened. Then silence. Boots echoed on the metal floor, sharp, commanding. Ryan sat up, squinting through the force field. Then he saw her, Velra. She stood tall in silver armor, her long hair tied back, her eyes sharp like blades. She looked stronger, older, but still her. She walked slowly, her golden eyes scanning the cell. Then she stopped, her eyes locked on his. For a moment, her breath caught. "Ryan," she whispered, so low the guards didn't hear. He smiled weakly. "I told you I'd return." Velra stared at him, as if seeing a ghost. She turned sharply to the nearest guard. "Open the door." "But General, he's a human," the guard protested. "I said open it," she commanded. The guard obeyed, trembling. Velra stepped inside, and the force field dropped. She stood in front of Ryan, eyes flickering with something, anger, disbelief, emotion. He struggled to sit up, pain still in his back. "I didn't know where else to go," he said. "You shouldn't have come," she said coldly. He nodded. "I know," then softer. She added, "But you came anyway." She kneeled down, her fingers reaching for his hand. The moment they touched, her armor pulsed with light. The pendant around his neck glowed brighter. Reacting to her presence, the guards gasped. "You kept it," she whispered, her voice shaking. "Of course," he replied. "You asked me to return." She looked away for a second, hiding her eyes. Then she stood and ordered the guards, "Clean him, feed him, give him medical care. But he's an outsider. He is mine." Velra snapped. Silence. Ryan was taken to a private chamber, not luxurious but safe. He was given food, water, and healing medicine. Later that night, the door slid open again. Velra stepped inside, no armor this time, just a simple robe. She stood by the door and said, "I never thought you'd actually come back." Ryan looked at her quietly. "I had to," he said. "You marked me, remember?" She smiled, just a little. "That mark was meant to keep others away," she said, "not to bring you closer." "Too late for that," Ryan replied. Outside the chamber, a storm was building. Inside, something deeper was rising. Velra stood near the window of the quiet chamber, watching the rain fall like silver needles from a purple sky. The city outside looked peaceful, but her heart was a storm. Ryan was asleep now, his breathing soft and even, but she couldn't stop watching him. He had changed. His face was older, jaw sharper, body stronger, but his eyes, they were still the same, still full of fire, still full of her. She remembered that day in the jungle clearly, the pain, the fear. The moment she looked into his young eyes and saw something no one else had, kindness, courage, and a strange strength that didn't come from power but from heart. She had whispered to him, hoping he would forget her, but he hadn't. He had come back. Velra turned away from the window. This wasn't just about him anymore. It was about what he represented. A forbidden bond, a living challenge to their laws, a human, claimed by a Neuralian royal, unthinkable, and yet, here he was, sleeping under her protection, wearing the pendant that still glowed every time she got close. She moved silently across the room, her bare feet touching the soft ground tiles. She sat on the edge of the bed and stared at him. "Why did you return, Ryan?" she whispered, even though she knew the answer. His eyes opened slowly. "I never left you," he said simply. She didn't flinch, but her breath caught. "You could have died," she replied. "I knew that," he said, "but I had to try." Velra looked down, her fingers touching the edge of the blanket. "There are rules here," she said, her voice tight. "Laws that don't bend for love or memory." "Then break them," Ryan said without hesitation. She looked at him, startled. "You think it's that easy?" "No," he said, "but I think you can." Silence filled the room, heavy and warm. Velra stood again, pacing slowly. "There is a council," she said. "Elders who have waited years for me to choose a mate from within our people. I didn't come here to ruin that," Ryan said. "I came because you asked me to." Velra's voice lowered. "I hoped you wouldn't." That sentence pierced deeper than any blade, but Ryan stayed calm. "And why did you give me this?" he asked, holding up the pendant. "Why did you mark me?" She turned away, arms crossed. "Because I was young and scared and didn't want to die alone," she said. "I didn't expect you to remember." "I remembered everything," he said. "Every word, every look." Velra closed her eyes. "I never chose a mate," she said quietly. "I delayed them every year." Giving excuses, she turned to him, eyes glowing with truth. "Because I couldn't forget you either." Ryan stepped closer. "Then don't fight it anymore," he said. "Let's face them together." Velra studied his face, as if searching for weakness, but all she saw was strength, stronger than before, stronger than even her own. She reached into her robe and pulled out a thin silver band. "This is the seal of the right," she said. "If you wear this, it means you challenge the laws. It also means you accept the risk of death." Ryan didn't hesitate. He took the band and slid it over his wrist. It glowed bright blue, then pulsed like a heartbeat. Velra stared at it, her throat tightening. "You don't know what this means," she said. "I do," he replied. "It means I belong here with you." She stepped closer, inches from him now. "You are not just a visitor anymore," she said. "You are my choice. I don't care if the galaxy burns," he whispered. "Just don't send me away." In the silence that followed, Velra did something she hadn't done in years. She placed her forehead gently against his, a Neuralian gesture of sacred bond. The pendant around his neck flared with golden light, and the bracelet hummed with power. Outside, thunder echoed across the sky, but inside that room, the storm had calmed. Later that night, Velra met secretly with her closest ally, an old warrior named Crawl. She handed him a sealed document and said, "Announce the challenge to the council." Crawl blinked, shocked. "Are you sure?" "He came for me," she said. "Now I'll fight for him." Crawl bowed deeply. "It will be war," he warned. "Then let it begin," she said. The alien girl waited. Now she chooses. Ryan stood in the center of a wide stone arena, shirtless, surrounded by thousands of alien eyes. The air was thick with smoke and chanting, the crowd restless, their voices rising like a wave of fire. Above him, in a high balcony of shimmering crystal, Velra stood dressed in ceremonial armor, silent and unblinking. This was the Rite of Fire, the ancient challenge used by Velra's people to test warriors, leaders, and future mates of royal blood. No outsider had ever attempted it. No human had ever been allowed to step foot in this arena, until now. The alien elders had mocked Velra when she claimed Ryan. They called it madness. They said a weak human couldn't survive a Neuralian rite meant to kill the strongest. But Velra stood firm. If he wins, she said, you will no longer question my choice. Ryan tightened his fists, breathing slowly. He could barely understand the alien chanting, but he didn't need to. He understood the message clearly: survive or die. The arena shifted, and massive stone doors groaned open. From within came a low growl. The first trial had begun. A beast stepped into the arena. Its body was like a massive lion covered in silver scales, with glowing red eyes and two tails that crackled with lightning. The crowd went silent for a moment. Even they hadn't expected that. Ryan didn't move. He waited. His training kicked in. Don't attack first. Watch, move, strike when ready. The beast charged, jaws wide, roaring like a machine. Ryan rolled to the side, the ground cracking behind him. He picked up a spear thrown into the arena and jumped on the creature's back. The beast shook violently, trying to throw him off, but Ryan held on. He jammed the spear into the base of its neck and used his weight to flip the creature onto its side. The crowd gasped. Blood sprayed. The beast shrieked. And then it fell. Ryan dropped to one knee, breathing hard. That was only the first trial. 3 more beasts followed, each stronger, each faster, each deadlier. Ryan's body was covered in cuts and bruises, but he didn't fall. He used everything he'd learned on Earth. Every lesson, every instinct. He fought like a soldier. But he moved with purpose. Every blow, every dodge, every decision was made not for glory, but for her, above. Velra clenched her fists as she watched him. Her heart pounded with fear, but also pride. No one in that arena knew what it meant to her. Every strike Ryan made was a message. I'm not just fighting for survival, I'm fighting for you. Finally, the last challenge was announced. The elders stood and pointed to a chamber that opened with a hiss. Out walked another Neuralian, armored, tall, and glowing with energy. A champion of their race, trained from birth to fight. His name was Korvac, a proud soldier who had once hoped to marry Velra himself. Now he stared at Ryan with disgust. You are weak, Korvac said. You do not belong here. Ryan raised his hands, bruised and bleeding. Then prove it, he said. The crowd roared as they clashed. Korvac's strikes were powerful, shaking the arena. Ryan ducked, dodged, used his speed. But the Neuralian was a monster. He was tossed into the wall, ribs cracking, blood in his mouth. Still he stood. Korvac laughed. You are finished, human. Ryan wiped his mouth and smiled. Not yet. He waited. Let Korvac charge again, and at the last second Ryan rolled under his legs, jumped up behind him, and slammed his elbow into the side of the warrior's head. Korvac stumbled, dazed. Ryan grabbed the last spear on the ground and struck fast, cutting across Korvac's chest. The bigger warrior collapsed, stunned. Ryan stood over him, panting, swaying, barely able to stay on his feet. But he had won. The arena fell silent. The elders stared in disbelief. And then cheers, louder than thunder. Velra stepped down from the balcony, walking across the arena floor. The crowd parted for her. She reached Ryan, who fell to one knee, exhausted. You did it, she whispered. I told you I would, he said, voice weak. She knelt beside him and touched the pendant still glowing on his chest. This bond. It is now law, she said, loud enough for the entire arena to hear. No one can deny it now. Ryan looked up at her, blood in his hair, pride in his eyes. I'm not just a boy anymore, he said. No, Velra replied, smiling softly. Now you're mine. The elders could no longer speak against it. The right had been passed, the law had been followed, and the people had seen the truth. A human had earned his place, not through power or blood, but through worth. The wind on Velra's palace balcony was cold, but Ryan didn't move. He stood next to her in silence, staring at the city lights below. His wounds from the right had healed, but something darker now surrounded them. Tension, whispers, shifting shadows. Word of Ryan's victory had spread like wildfire across the planet. Some called him a legend, others called him a curse. The alien council had remained quiet after the right, but Velra knew their silence wasn't peace, it was planning. They couldn't punish her openly, not after the ancient laws had declared Ryan worthy. But behind closed doors, they were already building something crueler. Velra's advisors warned her, one by one. Senators withdrew support. Old allies began acting distant. Some generals stopped answering her calls. Even Kral, her loyal war chief, had been followed home by masked spies. Inside the palace, Ryan trained every day. He didn't wait for trouble, he prepared for it. Velra taught him her people's language, their customs, their secret codes. In return, Ryan showed her human tactics, how to fight smart. Not just strong. They trained in silence, side by side, their bodies in sync like two blades sharpening each other. One night, as Ryan dodged a strike and pinned Velra to the ground, they froze. Not in combat, but in feeling. She looked up at him, breathless. He didn't move. Then, slowly, she reached up and touched his cheek. You are not just strong, she whispered. You are dangerous. For them, Ryan said, but never for you. That night, they kissed for the first time, not in secret, not in shame, but in truth. Their bond was now real, heart to heart, soul. But the next morning, war knocked on their door. A low-ranking guard ran into the training room, pale and shaking. There's been an attack, he gasped. Where? Velra demanded. On the village near the old spaceport. She stiffened. That's where the human support station is, she said. Ryan's eyes narrowed. They're targeting anyone loyal to me, he said quietly. Velra nodded. They're starting the purge. Together, they flew to the burning village. Smoke choked the skies, and bodies lay on the roads. Alien rebels with council funding had stormed the area, blaming humans for Velra's choices, but they didn't expect him to fight back. Ryan led the counterattack himself. With only a small team of loyalists, he drove back 3 waves of rebels. He saved dozens of alien children trapped in the school tower. Even Velra's most skeptical generals began to see him differently. He didn't fight for glory, he fought to protect the people. After the battle, Velra stood on a broken rooftop, her voice loud and full of power. I chose him because of this, she said, pointing at Ryan. Not his blood, not his race, his heart. The people cheered, but the council watched from the shadows. That night, a message came, a silent drone. Delivered a black scroll, sealed in blood-red wax. Velra opened it, her hands shaking. Disband your union, it read, or face removal by force. She burned the message in the fire pit. They're going to kill us, she said. Ryan stepped closer. Then we hit first. She raised an eyebrow. You mean war? No, Ryan said. I mean rebellion. Velra smiled slowly. I've been waiting years to hear someone say that. They gathered their allies that same night. Former soldiers, outcast warriors, village chiefs, rebel hackers, and even human diplomats in hiding. Ryan shared Earth strategies, stealth missions, communication jamming, surprise raids. Velra used her influence to control parts of the military still loyal to her bloodline. Together, they created the Fire Bond, a secret alliance to overthrow the council and rebuild the empire with new rules. No more hate, no more walls between races, only strength through unity. But the council struck first, just before dawn. 3 assassins disguised as royal chefs slipped into the palace. They crept through the halls, silent as smoke. Ryan was already awake, meditating, when he heard A whisper near the door. He grabbed a blade and moved fast. The fight was brutal. One assassin nearly cut his side open, but Ryan twisted, struck low, and drove his blade into the attacker's chest. Velra rushed in as he stood over the last body, panting. "You saved." "Me again," she said. "No," Ryan replied. "I'm just not letting them take what's mine." That day, Velra made her move. She walked into the council chamber in full armor, hand in hand with Ryan, and she declared, "The old ways are over." Some gasped, some drew weapons, but many bowed, because even in a world full of enemies, love backed by strength becomes something unstoppable. Smoke curled across the twin moons of Velra's homeworld. The capital was in chaos, sirens wailed, buildings burned, and the council's palace shook as explosions echoed through the night. The rebellion had begun, but this was no battle for power. This was a fight for a new future. Ryan stood on the front lines in armor made from both human steel and Neuralian crystal. His body was bruised, blood on his lips, but his eyes were clear. Behind him marched Velra's loyal warriors and the Firebond rebels, Neuralians. Humans, hybrids, and even former enemies who had switched sides. They marched for freedom, for her, for him, inside the palace walls. The council had gathered their last forces. They activated defense bots, summoned ancient war machines, and tried to erase the laws they had once protected. "Kill the outsider," one of them ordered. "Kill the girl who defied our blood." But Velra heard every word. She flew above the battlefield in her battlesuit, golden eyes burning. She wasn't just a leader now. She was a symbol. As her ship descended into the enemy courtyard, she landed beside Ryan. He turned to her and gave a tired smile. "You're late," he teased. "I had to make an entrance." She replied with a smirk. They stood back to back as the final wave approached. Energy blasts fired from every direction, but their army held the line. Together, they pushed forward Velra. With her plasma spear, Ryan with his blade and shield, they fought like one. No hesitation, no doubt. At the heart of the palace, the last elder waited with a weapon too large for one person. As Ryan stormed in, the elder shouted, "You don't belong here." But Ryan didn't stop. He leaped, dodged a blast, rolled forward, and slammed his shield into the elder's chest. The weapon exploded, knocking them both backward. Velra arrived just in time to see Ryan lying still on the ground. Her heart stopped. She rushed to him, dropped to her knees, and whispered, "No, not now." He coughed, blood on his lips, but he looked up and smiled weakly. "You said I was yours." He whispered, "So I stayed." Tears filled her eyes. "You fool," she said softly. "You beautiful fool." She pressed her forehead to his, and the pendant around his neck glowed brighter than ever before. Its light spread through the entire chamber. It wasn't just decoration, it was an ancient beacon, and it had chosen him. Outside, the rebellion forces cheered. The palace guards dropped their weapons. The war was over. Weeks later, under a new sky, Velra stood on the balcony of the rebuilt Grand Hall. She wore a flowing white and gold robe, and beside her stood Ryan, his arm wrapped gently around her waist. Below them, thousands of Neuralians and humans stood together, not as enemies, but as one people. Velra raised her voice. "For centuries, we feared change," she said. "We feared the unknown, the outsider. But this human came to our world not with war, but with heart. He bled for us, fought for us, and believed in a future we were too blind to see." She turned to Ryan, her eyes soft. "And because of him, I did too." Ryan stepped forward. "I was just a boy when I met her," he said. "But she saw something in me. I wasn't strong or smart or special. I was just willing to stand up when no one else did." The crowd stood in silence, and then, slowly, hands began to rise, Neuralian and human alike clapping. Faster, louder, until the air shook with thunderous applause. Years passed. A new city rose from the ashes of war. Schools taught both human and Neuralian history. Soldiers trained side by side. Children born of both worlds ran through the gardens. laughing in 2 languages, inside a quiet home near the edge of the capital. Ryan sat with a small girl on his lap. She had silver hair like her mother and green eyes like her father. She looked up at him, curious. "Is it true, Daddy?" She asked. "You weren't from here?" Ryan chuckled. "Very true. And Mommy chose you?" He smiled, looking out the window where Velra stood in the garden. "No," he said softly. "We chose each other." Velra turned, as if hearing his voice from across the garden. Their eyes met, and in that moment, the war, the pain, the past all faded. Only love remained, because once, an alien girl whispered to a scared human boy, "Return when you're older." And he did, and together they changed everything.